Hello and welcome to Gentle Yoga. I'm Jeani and we are in the ACC community room. We are going to actually use some stretches for the shoulders. We'll be down on the mat in our bow pose as well. So what I suggest doing is if you have limited shoulder mobility and not able to reach your ankles, or you have a special prop that you like to use with those sort of poses, make sure you have your strap, that favorite prop, and we'll start at the back of the mat. There's also a chair that you can use too if you'd like. I think I demonstrated that last week. But you can always, if you're at home and you're using the chair, you don't need to do an actual walking meditation. You can always walk in place. And you can do a down dog using the chair if using the blocks on the floor is a little too difficult. So there we are. Anyhow, let's go ahead and start at the back of the mat. And what I suggest is not really too much other than just checking in as you arrive. You're just noticing how the mat feels under the feet. Noticing how the body feels. If your legs are tight, keep a gentle bend to the knees. And as we fold or move through the poses, just be mindful of how the body feels. You're not obligated to go fully. You can always modify or just stand or rest on the mat in a resting pose. So in our mountain, as we arrive, you might feel your heart beating. You may feel parts of the body just relax into the foundation of this home base mountain. Feet are underneath the hips. And as we quiet down, our breath cycles will begin to slow as well. Let's begin to cultivate the breath, bringing the left palm to rest on our chest, right palm at about the belly button or below. Breathe with a little more intention, inhaling through the nose. A brief pause before you exhale through the nose. See if you can push out the air with the belly. Even the belly hand can press inward to help remind you. Engage the core at the bottom of the exhale. And then another brief pause before you start the next breath cycle. As we're breathing along, you may notice a little jagged pattern. If you were active before coming to class, you may start to notice it starting to diminish. The breath cycle, lengthening. Will help to connect to our yogic breath by widening the top of the throat. As we breathe in and out, hearing a deep sigh, some sort of audible sound, maybe an ocean wave. And then we can rest our hands at our side, just nice and relaxed. And start to connect the breath and the body. With the next inhale, gently root down at the feet. Imagine the tops of the legs, the thighs internally rotating, energy drawing from the feet up the legs, through the spine, to the crown of the head, to the ceiling and beyond. And on the exhale, reverse direction of that energy back down, and feel just a little engagement of the core, the feet rooting down a little more. With the next inhale, we'll start to just gently feel the center of gravity tipping towards our toes. We still have contact at the soles of the feet with the mat, but perhaps at the top of the inhale, we're tipping. Then use the exhale to slowly feel that center moving towards the heels until once more, hopefully out of your exhale there, at the bottom of the exhale, you feel that tipping point at the heels. Use the next couple of breath cycles. Explore the heel to toe alignment. Notice how it feels even as it passes over the arch. And then we'll meet at center, somewhere at the top of the ankles, at the insteps, closer to the heels. Feel that energy sinking in. Inhale. Feel the energy lifting through the crown of the head once more. And then exhale. Start to roll the weight towards the outer right edge. Once more, still in contact with the mat at the soles of the feet. Fully exhaled here. Inhale to center. 3-part breath. Or exhale all the way to the other side. 2-part breath. Use the next couple of breath cycles. Feel that horizontal mapping at the soles of the feet. Try to keep the body as one long unit while you just feel the center of gravity shifting at the soles of the feet from the left side of the feet to the right side of the feet. And then we'll meet at center once more. Feel that energy drop in, root down. Inhaling, feeling the lengthening, palms facing forward if you haven't already. Start making small circles at the ankles and imagine the circles getting larger and larger. A few breath cycles to finally explore the edge of your feet, the perimeter. And then you can start to tighten in the circles. Allow that center once more to return home. Inhale, bringing the breath all the way to the crown of the head and beyond. Start the small circles now in the opposite direction. You may notice differences or not. Once more, trying to keep the body as still as possible, as one long stick, if you will, while the circles explore to the very edge of your feet. And then we can tighten in those circles and meet at center, fully rooted at the bottom of the exhale here. Go ahead and make any movement needed. If you grip the mat, lift the heels, lift the toes, wiggle your feet. And then we'll go ahead and start shifting our feet a little more. And as we do so, feel that pivoting outward of the toes to help you start to swivel at the waist. Torso is probably a second or two, maybe, behind that movement, so that you'll have a subtle ringing action at the waist. And you may even feel the arms moving on their own, or from the momentum, but not actively by you. You may find that momentum just moving the arms like little branches, little waves in the air. And making sure as more of your torso faces one side, those toes are pivoting out in the same direction. Keep your knees safe. And then we'll let that energy die down and return to our home base once more. Pivoting in the toes so that we have a heel to toe alignment once more. And then we'll move on up to the shoulders. If you feel your stance is a little narrow, make sure you reset your home base here. And at this point, I like to think that our tailbone is shifting downward ever more, especially if you have a tendency to stick out the tailbone like I do. And we can lift up at the chest, feeling nice and long, bringing our torso to rest directly above our pelvic bowl, our column of support from the hips down. Palms facing forward. Let's go ahead and inhale, shoulders gently lift up. Exhale, roll them back and let them melt down. Total of 4 breath cycles, give or take. Allow yourself that slow movement with the yogic breath to just kind of loosen up, lubricate the shoulders while the body is held steady by the core all the way down to the heels, to the foundations of your home base. Try not to pinch the shoulder blades in towards the spine. Just see if you can rotate them in this circle right at the shoulders. And then after the last set, we're going to do another set here and roll them forward on the exhale this time. Again, 4 more breath cycles worth of shoulder rolls up, rolling them forward on the exhale, and just letting them melt in. Make sure your core is engaged, but if you find that you've lost it, you can always just re-engage. I think I have 1 more to go. And then, once more, kind of release from that last pose, do what you need. We'll move on up to the very last portion of our warm-up. Inhaling, feeling a string, if you will, lifting at the crown of the head, palms facing forward. Let's go ahead and let the right ear on the exhale dip towards the right shoulder. We want a space there. We're going to inhale, feel lifting at the chest if you can, and then exhale, turn the gaze. Give yourself 4 breath cycles to release with the yogic breath any tension in the left side of the neck, the jaw, the eyes. See if you can gently guide the eyes to rest on the rightmost of your periphery by that last exhale. Keep in mind any rotating of the column of support, whether it's a shifting of balance from one side to the other or just even from the inner arches to the outer arches. You want a nice, flat, even distribution of weight. And after that last exhale, inhale the eyes back into the gaze. The gaze turns, lifting the crown of the head to the top of the inhale, and then exhale over to the other side. And once more, we're inhaling for length, exhaling to turn the gaze and release on the right side of the face, the neck, maybe even the shoulder. A soft gaze, wherever that might be, but in coordination with the breath. And after that last exhale, inhale the eyes, the gaze, the crown of the head to the top of the inhale, and then let the eyes exhale, float down towards the top of the mat. Again, a nice tennis ball sized space between the chin and the chest. And when you inhale, feel that slight diagonal direction of the crown of the head, while the shoulders all the way down to the heels, one long column of support. Core engaged. Just feel the energy enter the body with the inhale through the nose. Feel the body rooting, feeling stable with the exhale through the nose. And hopefully you feel release even at the back of the neck. At that last exhale, we're going to inhale the eyes back up towards the midline, past it, and see if you can stop when you see this top, the ceiling. And give yourself 4 good deep breath cycles, give or take, to release at the front of the throat, openings at the mouth, with the jaw gently swaying from side to side if that feels good. Just a relaxing of the brow line. Soft gaze. And after that last breath cycle, let the eyes just float back to the midline. Shake out any residual tension. Give yourself some lifting of the feet. Do what feels good to you to come back and reset your mountain. And we'll start with our folds. With an energized reaching of the arms, nice and relaxed arms, but reaching the fingers downward. Let's inhale, extend the arms up while we're still reaching with the fingers. And at the top, we're going to engage the core. Start to exhale, hinging at the hips. Make sure you internally rotate the thighs, the core is engaged. Bring the tailbone back behind that origin point of the legs. And start to fold forward. You might have your blocks. You might just walk your hands down. But as you start to hinge, if you get stuck, you can always press into the feet, and that'll help you to open up the hips and that internal rotation of the thighs to help you get a little deeper into your fold. Now, my hips are kind of tight, so I have more of a half lift movement here, and don't be discouraged. You can get a little more relaxed. You can bend your knees. That might help with tight legs. Give it a good deep bend if you need to. Make sure your feet are not rolling towards the outer edges. We want to have that good internal rotation. Feeling out the pads of the balls of the feet, the big pads under the toes. And hopefully you can relax the arms wherever they may be, even resting the forearms on the thighs. See if you can just relax the upper body. Notice if you're holding on to the weight of the head, gentle movements left to right, forward and back, maybe even circular like a plumb line in one direction and then again in the other. Let gravity help you give that traction to the spine all the way from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Deeply breathing, connected to that yogic breath. If you feel yourself shifting that center of gravity towards the toes, just bring it on back a little more to the tops of the ankles. We're here in our first forward fold for about 5 breath cycles. If they're a little shorter, maybe a little longer. If they're a little longer, maybe a little shorter. But at about now, you can prepare to come out of your lengthy ragdoll of a fold by engaging the core, pressing into the balls of the feet, internal rotation of those thighs, and slowly, you can even walk the hands up, but try to keep the load in the feet and the legs and the butt. Engage the core, and come on up, tailbone tucking under, hands at the side, and you can even squeeze the glutes if you'd like to help bring the pelvic tilt into that neutral mountain position. We'll fold one more time, a little shorter this time. Inhaling, extend the arms up. Engage the core, exhale, hinge at the hips. Come on down. Walk hands down or just let it float down. Be mindful of the movement. Notice what you need to do with your column of support, with the legs. And breathe here for 3 breath cycles once you're in that sweet spot of your second fold. Notice if you're holding on to the weight in your head. See if you can lengthen through the legs just a little more, or just keep your bend. You can always just sway the hips from side to side, lubricate the hips if you need. Then come back to your fold. And once more, we'll come out of our second fold by either that slow roll up of the spine, or you can engage the core either way. Come up with a straight spine, hands in prayer if you'd like, or at your side, or walking it up. And at the top, we're going to reach all the way up with hands in prayer. And then exhale, hands down, heart center. And here we'll begin our walking meditation, bringing standing weight to the left side of the body. Inhale, engage the right foot when you have that stability, and lift the right heel. You can lift the entire foot forward. The bigger the step, the more challenging. The higher the knee, the more challenging. But it's a slow breath in and out per step. And all we're doing is bringing that core engagement to help us move forward in balance. Pressing into the palms if you feel a little wobbly. Exhaling the foot down in front, shifting that weight to the front foot. Inhaling the other foot up, the back foot up. Bringing it forward on the exhale completely. And you can do a heel to midfoot to toes, or you could just go from the midfoot to the toes, whichever works for you. And at the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips, inhale, press into the palms. Watch the fingertips rise for balance and focus. Separate the palms, engage the core and hinge once more at the hips. Keep that bend to the knees if you need. Float on down, walk on down. Just fold. Walking all the way down to your third fold. This time, wherever your hands are, we're going to press into our shins, into the thighs, into the feet, ankles, maybe even the floor. Lengthen through the back into a half lift. Inhale fully here. You're feeling energy from the hips down to the heels, from the hips to the crown of the head. And then exhale. Just relax the torso towards the fold. And then you can bend the knees if you need, but we're going to bring our hands to either side of the knees, to the feet. We're going to step one foot down, bending the knees if you need, and step one foot back and the other foot back. You won't have to take many steps. You can maybe take one step for each leg, and then bring, with an inhale, shoulders over the wrists into a high plank for just a brief moment. And then exhale, bring the shins down. Make sure those elbows can bend back towards the back of the mat, and modify your high plank. And here we're staying about 5 breath cycles. Give yourself a check-in. You're supporting the bottom of your body primarily with the tops of the ankles, and you can always tuck the toes if you need. But if you can use your shins for the most part, and the upper body with the shoulders down, these extended arms into the palms. If you feel more of the weight in the heels of the palms, you can always walk the hands forward if your wrists are a little sensitive. But your belly button is sticking to the ribs. Your core is always engaged here. And you're feeling that line, that diagonal energy line from the shins all the way to the crown of the head, and the fingers, palms, and skin of your hands supporting that upper body energized downwards, pushing in to the mat with those extended arms, feeling the shoulder blades protract away from the spine. Breathing in, breathing out. And then inhale, tuck the toes, lift up the hips into your high plank. Exhale, shift into down dog. You can use the blocks under the hands. You can use your forearms if you'd like, in which case your puppy will need to have a straighter lower back. Make sure it's not curving inward. And at this point, we're once more in a pose for about 5 breath cycles, give or take. Your heels may be lifted, We want to make sure the shoulders are rotated away from the ears, and maybe our head is somewhat in between the upper arms there. We're looking downward. We might look at our belly button eventually. And as we're breathing deeply, see if you can feel the inhale helping to lift the tailbone towards the sky, towards the ceiling, while the exhale helps you to root down your limbs to the mat. And eventually you may find your heels are down on the mat. You want to make sure there's a good space between the hands and the feet, but you might have to adjust that. If you're upside down U, can become more of an upside down V eventually. And just pressing into those extended arms to help keep all the weight out of your palm heels. We don't want that. But hopefully you'll feel that upward lifting at the tailbone. Well, from the tailbone down to the hands and the tailbone down to the heels are two downward energy directions. And core is very much engaged. With that last exhale, let's go ahead and inhale, eyes rolled to the hands. Bend the knees if you need, and walk to the fold at the back of the mat. Walk the hands to the back. Fully exhaled into your fold here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, bend the knees if you need, drop the tailbone, and come on up, pressing into the feet. Hands above the head, reaching all the way up. Exhaling, hands down, heart center. And then pressing into the palms or the blocks if you have them in the hand. We'll start our second walking meditation. Inhaling, right foot lifts. Slowly exhaling that down. Bringing the weight to the front leg. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale that down. And again, you can always walk in place. If you're at home or here in the chair, just feel that shifting of gravity as you slowly make your way to the front of the mat. If you want a more challenging walking meditation, lift the knee higher. Keep it suspended in the air longer. You can also make the step forward wider, bigger. And at the top of the mat, in our mountain, looking at the tips of the fingers or the blocks, pressing into the palms, inhale, hands up. Separate the palms on the exhale, hinge at the hips, long back, bent knees if you need. Stick the tailbone back and hinge to your fourth fold. Walk the hands down, float down. At the bottom of the fold, fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift, lengthen through the legs and the back. Exhale, fold. Set the blocks down to a low setting if you need. Bring the hands down. Walk the feet back. And this time in your high plank, inhaling shoulders over the wrists. We're going to stay here, engaged core, for about 3 breath cycles. Feel that length from the heels to the crown of the head. Core is really engaged, and you're making sure you're pressing into the mat with your hands, as the balls of the feet are pretty much just like a kickstand. Not too much going on there, but imagine gentle energy from the heels down to the balls of the feet. Looking down at the mat. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. Inhale, hips up. Exhale into down dog. Your feet are a little narrow, widen them.
You want the hands about shoulder width apart. You want the feet about hips distance apart. Sometimes that just changes along the transition. So modify, adjust as you move along. Inhaling deeply, you can press your hands, extend into the mat with the upper body as the tailbone lifts. And again, exhale, heels may come down a little lower. If your feet are firmly on the mat, ensure a pigeon toe position to keep that opening at the tailbone. Thighs are internally rotated inward. Make sure your elbows don't start to sway outward. We want the elbows kind of bending back towards the back of the mat if you were to bend them, so that you have the shoulders rotated away from the ears. With the next inhale, look to the hands, bring along your blocks if you need, and walk your hands to the back of the mat. And keep that bend, especially if you're at the knees, if your legs are tight. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Engage the core. Prepare to come on up, your choice. Inhaling, hands up. Reaching to the ceiling. Exhaling, hands down, heart center. And one last walking meditation. Inhaling, right foot up. Exhaling it down. Shifting weight forward. Inhaling, left foot up. Exhaling that down. One full breath cycle per step. And we'll meet in mountain at the top of the mat. If you fall out, don't worry about it. Come on back. We'll walk all the way to the top. Press into your hands in mountain and lift the hands and blocks if you have them to the top. Separate, exhale, fold. Fully exhaled at the bottom, engaged core. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Bring the hands to either side of the feet and step back. Bend the knees. Step back into your high plank. Inhale, shoulders over the wrists, and breathe 3 good, long, slow yogic breaths. Looking straight down. Inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, down dog. Three full breath cycles here. You can walk your dog. You can do what you like. You can just breathe. Then inhale, bend the knees if you need. Walk the hands to the back of the mat. On the exhale, fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold once more. And then inhale, come on up. Your choice, engaged core. Exhale, hands down, heart center, and finally down to the side. Ooh, you should feel a little warmer if you want to rub your hands a little bit. If you want a drink of water, we're going to move into our balance pose. And yes. Oh. Hello. Okay, and so we're moving into our balance pose now, and I really enjoy the balance on one foot. If you would like to turn it into a tree, you're more than welcome to.
At this point, though, we're standing in a better defined mountain. So make sure the feet are about one floor tile apart, about of 1 square foot. And you can, refine that even keel, the even distribution of weight at the soles of the feet. Notice if the tailbone is sticking out. We want to tuck that under. You want to feel that shoulder not pitching forward, but really just right above the pelvic bowl. Nice and relaxed shoulders. And we're pressing down at our feet. All points of the feet, but a little more at the balls of the feet. And see if you can have that internal rotation of the thighs. Your glutes should be engaged. Core engaged. And then we'll inhale, standing weight to the right side this time. And once that's there, see if you can start to lift the left heel. If you're working on balance, being able to just shift over, just stay where you are. But eventually, if you can get the heel off the mat, then see if you can lift the left foot's ball and hover it above the mat, engaging from the right leg, the right side of the body, the heel, hip, the glute, all the way down to the heel. See if you can just bring the standing weight to one leg, one side of the body. If you're in tree, you can always bring the hands to heart center and branch them out with the breath. We're staying about 3 to 5 breath cycles, just trying to maintain balance. And then after that 3 breaths, you can bring the left foot down, bring that heel down, internally rotate your hip, bring it on in before you bring that leg down, or you'll feel it. And then we'll go ahead and return center to mountain. And do what feels good to you. If you still feel engagement of the glute, of any part of the body, do what feels nice. You can bounce, you can swing the hips, you can bring weight to the other leg, you can roll that right ankle, that hard working right side. See if you can release from the hip all the way down to the heel. You can kick out that foot, kick it to the front, kick it off to the same side, always before you kick it back. You can even just step the tops of that right foot back. See if you can lift up through the chest and get an opening in that right hip briefly. Okay, and then we'll come on over to the other side. We have already gone through 40 minutes. That just flies by. Here we go. So inhaling, standing weight to the left side. Lifting the right heel once we feel that balance. And moving into just lifting the sole of that right foot, or you can develop your tree. Lift the right heel, start to bring it to the left ankle, open up that right hip. Or just maintain that balance on one side of the body. Staying 3 to 5 breath cycles once you've reached your sweet spot. You want to make sure your standing leg is engaged. Core is engaged to help keep the balance. If you have to tap out, if you fall out, that's okay. Come on back where you can. And then exhale. Slowly come out. If you're in tree, internally rotate the right hip and then bring down the right foot, heel. And again, make any adjustments, any counter movements that feel good to release from the left side of the body. I really like the ankle rolls lately. Okay. Then we're going to make our way down to the mat. If you're in a chair, you can also do this opening of the hips. You just want to make sure you're at the edge of the chair with your sits bones right at the edge, your hands at either side of the seat. Or you can turn sideways and do the same thing and use the back of the seat with your one arm. But we're just going to come onto our belly and try to open up at the hip. What you can do is make sure if you're in the chair, that you have one hip bone on the seat while the other one is kind of dangling off the edge of the chair. And then that'll allow you to start to bring the knee down directly underneath the hip. And then eventually you might just play with the position of the one foot. Now if you're in the chair, you're just going to have to open up the hips one at a time. But if you're going down to the mat, coming onto your belly, we'll be doing 2 at a time. So just do what you can where you can. And I'm coming on down to my belly, and have a strap nearby as well. We will be moving into some stretching poses of the shoulders. You may need the strap as well as bow. Okay, so as we come onto our belly, well, actually before we do that, we're going to thread the needle for a moment here on our shins and our hands. Give yourself a tabletop position here. And if you're on the chair, you could just sit with your knees at a 90-degree angle before you move into a hip extension here. But what we're going to do is bring our balance, prepare to balance on 3 limbs. And I'm going to start with the right hand lifting, bringing it out to the side, inhaling deeply, and then exhale. Start to cup that hand, palm up, and bring it behind your left wrist. And eventually, hopefully you can make your way down into a thread the needle position. The right shoulder should be moving towards the mat. If your right hip is tight and swings in your left foot, see if you can keep the feet separated. But eventually, all you're trying to do is just hinge at the hips and bring the right shoulder to meet on the floor. You may eventually just give yourself a nice little twist and feel the back of your hand palm up on the right arm here. Just helping to kind of anchor it down as you gently release into the floor. Shoulder on the mat, or eventually getting to the mat. And make sure your shins, as well as, it's not just your knees supporting your body here. But eventually, when you reach your sweet spot, breathe 3 to 5 breaths here. And if you're in the chair, all you're doing is just gently holding that right arm instead of your left hand above your head like we are here on the mat. You're just bringing a cradling motion and helping your right arm reach across your chest. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. And then inhale. Release the arm, bring it back into the tabletop position. Come on up. Readjust hands underneath the shoulders. And in tabletop once more, we're going to inhale, bring the left arm out. Exhale, let that left hand go behind your wrist and bring the torso down, the shoulder down. You should be hinging at the hips, making the back long. And then your body will stop where it will. But eventually, if you can get your left shoulder onto the mat, keeping the hips up. We're not going into child's pose with our hips. The hips are up. And the back of the hand is sort of like an anchor point. Once you find that anchor point, you can just gently breathe 3 to 5 breath cycles, allowing the left shoulder to just melt into the mat or hover above the mat. Give yourself a gentle twisting. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. And then inhale. Bring that left hand out. Come back into tabletop position. And then make your way onto your belly. Okay, savor that time that you're on the belly. Give a moment or two with either the brow line pillowed by your back of the hands or on one side of your cheek. And you can always keep the arms down at the side if keeping them folded above your shoulder line is a little hard for you. But give yourself some gentle movement. And if you're in chair, now all you need to do is that one sit bone gently draped off of the edge of the chair, so you can bend that knee and walk that foot back behind and extend through that hip. Alrighty, if you have the strap, which I forgot to bring it, but if you have the strap near you, you can use it, and you can bend your knees, and you can kind of put it at the tops of the feet, that strap, to help bring the feet closer to the bottom, to the sacrum, to the glutes. You can just use your arms as weights to gently allow the heels to get closer and closer. If you can reach the ankles, the material of your leggings, if you can reach the tops of the instep of the feet, fingers gently just hooking onto the feet, not really pulling it down, but just letting the weight of the arms relax so that the feet are just getting nearer to your bottom. So if you have the strap, you're just letting that arm weight help to bring the feet closer. Give it a nice relaxed stretch. And then we're going to inhale and start to press the feet into the hands or the strap, wherever you might have a grip. We're just pressing the feet forward. And your glutes should engage. You should feel a lengthening of the thighs, the knees going down longer. And hold that for 3 to 5 breath cycles. If your face is turned, it should be actually in line with the mat. You should have the nose and the mouth facing there gently. Just feeling that lengthening of the knees downward. And the pressing of the hip bones into the mat, and relaxed arms. Let the glutes and the feet kind of work here to help stretch out the hip flexors and the shoulders. Alrighty, and then exhale, release the legs, thighs back into the mat, release the feet, let the arms down to your side. You can tap out the tops of the feet on the mat. You can shift the hips from side to side. If you're in the chair, you can bring both knees into that 90-degree angle. And you can prepare to shift to the other side and do the same. Let that other hip now dangle gently off of the seat while we move into a second set here. And we're going to once more reach down for the knees. And this time, inhale, actively reach down for the feet. Actively lengthen the thighs down the mat, pressing the feet into the hands or the strap, engaging the glutes. And with the second one, you might feel the knees slightly lifting. Don't pinch the shoulders back on purpose. Just allow the movement of the feet pushing into the hands to lengthen through the shoulders. You're looking down at the mat. And in the chair, you're hopefully getting your other hip nice and extended by walking that foot back. You can always rest the foot on the toe tips or the tops of the toes and extend through that other hip. Breathing the 3 to 5 breath cycles here. And if you have good deep breaths, you may even start rocking in your bow. You may feel the thighs lifting off the mat. And then exhale, release. Slowly let the legs come down to the mat. If they were lifted, release the hands. Turn the gaze to the other side if you'd like. Rest onto the apple of the cheeks there. And then we're going to do a shoulder peel. So you can bring the arms out to the side at a T, That's a little more challenging though. So if you know you have shoulder, restrictions, you can keep the arms at more of an angle, closer to the body. We're going to start by rolling to your favorite side. It doesn't matter which, but just pick one side. Take the opposite arm that you're going to roll over to. Use it as a kickstand hand. Inhale, and just start to roll onto that side of your body to the best of your ability. You may find that you can come all the way up to your hip. Then you can use that top leg, bend it, bring that foot behind the leg. You can stay here for 3 to 5 breath cycles and modify what you need to. You don't have to go this deeply. You can always just be still on the belly and just, bring a limb over. If you have your arm at your side, if you have it back behind, bending your elbow, you can have the back of the hand resting at the sacrum. You can grab a hold of both hands if you have that mobility in the shoulders, and inhale deeply and lengthen. Bring the hands towards a general downward movement as you open up through the chest. But don't force anything. This is all just dependent on your range of mobility. You can always just enjoy the shoulder peel of that arm on the floor, that shoulder on the floor. Palm face down, palm face up. See what works for you. And you can always get a hip opening as well by bringing the knee, the foot, bending the knee, bringing that back foot a little closer to the left thigh or the thigh of the leg on the floor. All right, and to come out, if you have an appendage over your back, bring it on back to the front. Bring your arm into a kickstand hand in front of you. Start to pull forward so you're off the side. Bring that foot back over. Come on back to the belly. Come out to a T or angled arm once more. Kickstand hand, the opposite hand, and now roll over to the other side on the inhale. And move through it slowly. And if you're in the chair, you should just be moving the arm behind you best that you can. You might be able to clasp both hands behind you to open up, but it might be just as well just to bring the hand behind you so you can open up that shoulder in a similar fashion to what we're doing on the mat. Wherever you are, giving yourself, after you reach that sweet spot, the 3 to 5 breath cycles to breathe. Bring breath into the body. See if there's any achiness that you can identify, and release with the exhale. And after you're done with your last breath cycle, if you have appendages behind you, bring your arm out in front of you, make a kickstand hand, arm position, shape, and then start to roll back onto the belly. And I think we need to prepare for Shavasana. So come on up, your choice, whether you'd like to extend an arm and roll onto the back, whether or not you want to do a reverse push-up. Get yourself a little child's pose right before you come back into your Shavasana final pose on the back. I'm going to sit upright just to mind the time, but hopefully you're just lengthening the body. If you find your calves are lifted, try to inhale, extend that leg through the heel, and see if the leg relaxes a little closer down to the mat. If it doesn't, that's okay. It is where it is. You may benefit from having a rolled blanket placed underneath your sacrum at that small of the back where there's a little bit of space. You might benefit from having a folded blanket underneath the head if you have a sensitive neck. I personally like to just have myself flat, but everyone is different, so do what speaks to you. And when you hear the 3 bells, we will awaken. Bringing the mind back to the body, taking note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. As you reconnect to the body vessel, make movements in the hands, feet, roll the hips if you like. Nice overhead stretch is always good, but find your way back into an easy seated position of your choice. And we'll end our class with our Kapalabhati breathing. And we've been doing about 20 rounds now. Let's do one more week of 20 rounds, and next week we will move on to 30, if you can imagine. And I am reminded that you can sometimes get a little dizzy, a little lightheaded when you're performing the sudden bursts of breath. It's a bit of a hyperventilation, but we're focusing more on our exhale. So you may feel a tingling in the mouth as we move into the higher counts of each round. So that being said, we'll start sitting upright, nice and tall. Gentle tuck of the chin. I'll try to keep time with my hands here. We're going to gently purse the lips as we shoot the air out, making that bellowing action with the belly. So inhale deeply. Fully exhaled here, chin tuck, lift the pelvic floor, and release the breath. Breathe deeply. Allow the breath to return to a natural state. We'll do one more round. Inhaling. Fully exhaled, chin tuck, pelvic lift. And then release the breath. Bring hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining us here at the ACC Community Room. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you.